Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. We got some information about the front or from the front given by the Ukrainians regarding the achievements of the Ukrainian army and lack of achievements from the Russian army. They claim here, the Ukrainians, that Ukrainian armed forces force Russian troops to flee on Sloviansk front. This article comes from Ukrainska Pravda from August 24th, 2022, which is today. So the armed forces of Ukraine have deployed their firepower to carry out an attack on Russian troops on the Sloviansk front, forcing them to flee. Okay, so then I haven't heard about Ukrainian army personnel advancing. Everything I heard as of now or lately is just firepower. Okay, which is not bad if you still have it. You defend your country after all. But with liberating the country, whatever the occupied territories, we'll see. General Staff of Armed Forces of Ukraine said this today at 6 o'clock, that the Ukrainian forces forced the Russian troops in Sloviansk to flee. Details: Russia continues to deploy separate units from the Western Military District on the Siverchnia front, in particular in parts of the Bryansk and Kursk Oblast in Russia, near the Russian-Ukraine border, in order to demonstrate their presence in the area and pin down the Ukrainian defense forces and therefore prevent them from being transferred to other more active fronts. Russian troops shelled the village of the Russian troops shelled the village of Tovsto-Dubove in Sumy Oblast using tubed and rockets. Is that what it says? Yeah, and artillery, tubed artillery. On the Slobozanichnya front, Russian forces have engaged in hostilities in order to maintain their current positions. On the Kharkiv front, the Russians used tubed and rocket artillery to fire on areas in around, and we give about 15 settlements here, and conducted airstrikes near Masponove. And then 3 more. They used UAVs to conduct aerial reconnaissance near Dementivka. So they're active, and it seems like they're the aggressors. Russian forces shelled areas near Krasnopilia and Mazanivka on the Sloviansk front and attempted to conduct reconnaissance near Bohordiche. The Ukrainian armed forces detected the Russians and fired out on them, forcing them to flee. On the Donetsk front, Russian occupying forces are continuing to focus their efforts on the Adviivka and Bakhmut fronts in particular. So, as of now, I haven't heard Ukrainians, recapturing anything that they lost. It's just the other ones, or they counter, or at least defend, or try to push back whatever the Russians are doing. On the Kramatorsk front, the Russians used tubed and rocket artillery to fire on areas in and around Siversk, Zakirne and Rozdolivka, and used UAVs to conduct aerial reconnaissance near Zvanivka and Raihorodonk. The cities of Bakhmut and Soledar and the villages of Zaitsve and Bilohorivka came under Russian fire on the Bakhmut front. The Russians tried to wage offensive battles on Bakhmut and Kodema, but failed to make gains. Now, when they say failed to make gains, it means they make some. So every time you read an article about what's going on the front, if you read it from the Russians, it's the same thing as reading it from the Ukrainians, not because they're different, but it's war and that's what you do. Maximize your successes, minimize your enemies' successes, and obviously minimize your losses and maximize the enemy's losses. On the Avdiivka front, the Russians used various types of artillery to fire on areas near Marinka, Pisky, Netailove and Zalizne, and carried out an airstrike near Nevelske. They attempted to advance on Pisky and Nevelske, but were unsuccessful. Areas in and around Konstantinivka and Vuhledar came under Russian fire on the Novopavlivka front. Now, on the Zaporozhye front, the Russians used artillery of various calibers to fire on areas in and around, and they got like 8 villages, and carried out airstrikes near Olhivka and Novopil. They also used UAVs to conduct aerial reconnaissance near Shacherbaki, Stepove and Vaslivka. Russian forces are continuing to focus their efforts on the Pivdeny-Bukh front, on maintaining control of the current occupied areas and preventing the Ukrainian defense forces from carrying out maneuvers or counteroffensive operations like they are. Russian forces used tubed and rocket artillery to fire on areas in and around Stepova, Dolina, Nova Zoria, and like 7 more. Russian forces used Russian aircraft carried out airstrike near Potomkine and Lazove. In addition, the Russian used UAVs to carry out aerial reconnaissance in and around Sukhi, Stavok and Velkie Artakove. Well, this is what the Ukrainians information they provide from the front, and as you can tell, it's nothing major. But as I said, if it was something major, they will minimize it anyway. All I can see is shelling. They fire missiles or rockets, and they try this and they try that, but it's a static front according to the Ukrainians. Now, I don't know if that's so or not, or if they ignored, Mykolaiv, because I didn't hear anything about Mykolaiv. I didn't hear anything about Odessa or southern. You can say, well, they mentioned, okay, and not Mykolaiv, and that's where I think the Russians are focusing right now to go westward towards Transnistria, and then they will cut Odessa off from the main, let's say, the Ukraine per se, and they will change the whole geographical and political map of Ukraine if that happens, because that means Ukraine will be a landlocked country, and that's not a good thing. You want access to rivers and especially seas and oceans. So this is it. The Russians did not make an effort, and these guys pushed them back. They made efforts, but this is what the Ukrainians reported. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.